Russia, when it was more democratic, was not as threat as Putin's dictatorship is. So that part, you can ignore it, but ignore it at your peril. And then the last thing I will say, and I can go deeper in this, but we're better off stopping these threats over there so that we don't get dragged in to wars if, God forbid, they should attack our allies and partners. So let's start with Ukraine. I want to help the Ukrainians to do all they can to stop the Russian army in eastern Ukraine so that we don't, 2 to 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, get dragged into a war when Russia, after their victory in Ukraine, attacks Lithuania. And that is not...
Explain that, Mike, why Lithuania's NATO membership would trigger that.
Right, because they're a member of NATO. Article 5 commitment says an attack on one is attack on all. And their ability to fight the Russian army is much more constrained than the Ukrainian army is now. So just you don't even have to care about values. You could just care about security. Why is it? It's much more rational for us to support Ukrainian warriors who, by the way, they don't want our soldiers. They don't want American soldiers. All they want is the means to defend their country. That, to me, seems like a really good bet so that we don't have to fight the Russian army if they get so powerful after their win in Ukraine that they decide to march on. And study that part of the world, and you will know that that has happened time and time again with Nazi Germany and with Stalin's Soviet Union. They march until they can't march any further. The same thing in Asia. And again, Larry, you're the expert, not me, but I want to avoid a war with China over the island of Taiwan. I think that is a paramount national security interest that all Americans should embrace. And the way to avoid war over Taiwan is to deter war. And that means us giving more military assistance to the government of Taiwan and to help them get more prepared. Again, Larry, you're the expert, so I feel you should jump in. You're the expert. I'm not. But the things that the prime minister in Japan said recently that everybody's apoplectic about, I celebrate that. And I'm disappointed that President Trump is not supporting her because I think deterrence works. And if we begin to get wobbly, that's when bad things happen. And I'm with Ronald Reagan on this. Peace through strength. Keep strong, keep deterrence, keep our allies close. I'm deeply, deeply disappointed by the damage we're doing to our allies, especially in NATO, especially in Europe and Canada. We'll come back to that later. Because for a simple reason that if our allies are strong, that helps us deter China and Russia. But if we begin to look wobbly, that is tempting for Putin. That is tempting to Xi Jinping. And that's when we could get dragged into a war that I think could be avoided.